would like to talk about how the United States justice system works and how they use criminals to incarcerate um, black men who otherwise would not be in trouble with no criminal records. For example, um, I talked about this on on one of my other videos I made, how I used to go and, take the bus system, and I used to see this guy who used to ask me for money. And, the first time I give him money, but after a while, I used to see him like all the time. I'm not going to give him money all the time. So he would come up to me and ask for money. And one time he was like, "Oh, I'm going to stab you," because I didn't want to give him money. So, it's funny how, like if I was to react a wrong way to that comment, or got, extra defensive, we ended up getting into a fight or whatever. Most likely I would be the one locked up, not him. Because the way it works is they look at who you are as an individual. So eventually they might, look into what happened, see that, that this guy who they have on parole, they use him to get to people like me with no criminal records, so then they could target me. It's like stirring the kettle. It's almost like a college recruit. So when you go to college, recruiters from college look into your high school to recruit, certain individuals who they need to promote their school or what have you. So they come to your high school, whether it's basketball, or scholarship, or whatever, and they look at certain individuals. And these college recruiters is what they use to gather more people into their institution. In the same way as just like the recruiters, these people on parole, who have like criminal records, they use them for recruiters for the jail system to stir trouble in the local neighborhood. So in my case, there was a guy who assaulted me and my family, and when I defended myself, the detective came to me afterwards, even though everything was recorded on tape, on surveillance video. Everything was. It doesn't matter to them, because they look at black men as marginalized, and nobody's going to stick up for them. So it's the low of the low, the lowest of the low in the system. So they would take a simple case of a fight, right? A simple case of a fight, and escalate it to a major crime. Just a simple case of a fight that nobody got hurt, and escalate it to a major crime, to a murder charge, something compatible to a murder charge. Now, if no one died, of course, they're not going to have it murder charge, but they'll have multiple charges where it will add up to something compatible to a murder charge or a manslaughter charge for a simple fight that nobody cares about. And in my case, there was an individual who was assaulting multiple people, and I ended up being the good Samaritan. But of course, they don't see it that way. They don't want to see it that way. They look at black men as either, fuel for their incarceration jail system, or some kind of entertainment. You just can't be. You have to either entertain them, or you have to be in their jail system, or in one of their, working for them some way that they see benefit. And if they don't see you benefit, then they're looking for you to incarcerate you. You know, as a black man. I mean, it doesn't matter if you have a criminal record or not. They want to use you in some way. So so I have this case where, you know, I was defending myself, like I said, and everything was recorded, so there's no questions on what happened because everything was recorded on the surveillance video. But the boldness of the of you know of these of the detective and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts is, you know, it's really, I mean, it's mind-boggling how bold they would be to, you know, to have everything recorded and still feel like they're gonna win the case. I mean, it's their court system, it's their rules, you know, so they can make it however they want to make it. You mean they make the game, you know. It's their court, it's their rules, and they make it as they go. So, but they still have to answer questions. And one of the questions that the Commonwealth of Massachusetts have to answer is, how can it be severe? How can it give me severe body injury to charge me with severe body injury to an individual who was stalking me the next day, who approached me at the store, right, with a gun only a few hours later. So how can he be charged with severe body injury and he was at the same location waiting for me to get revenge with a gun that was on surveillance camera, mind you. Everything was recorded because the 7-Eleven has the surveillance camera in the parking lot, and it shows the whole parking lot. So as I was riding my bike, I was talking to a guy, and we stopped in front of the 7-Eleven. And that's when we noticed this guy coming up towards us. So me and him, he broke out that way. I was on my bike, and I left another way. I was able to flee this incident without getting shot. But so they have to answer that question. They have to answer, the courts have to answer why, when they gave me, you know, one of the reasons why I'm defending myself is because they gave me a public defender who was really a plant for the prosecution, and he absolutely would not go and get the surveillance video because they barred me from the store to help, you know, so I wouldn't be able to get the surveillance video. They also made a law that, you know, only the lawyer can get the surveillance video, right? So the lawyer, the public defender knew he was the only one who was able to get the surveillance video. So because he was a plan for the prosecution, he did everything in his power not to get the surveillance video. So what I did was I even asked him, okay, if you don't want to get the surveillance video, can you at least put a motion, would you please put a motion to reserve the footage that was on the surveillance video? And he couldn't even do that. So I went down to the courthouse myself and placed a motion to reserve those tapes, right? The tapes for that day, for the day that showed everything that happened, and the next day that shows him stalking me or waiting by the store, waiting for me and coming at me, you know, with a gun. That's also on the surveillance video from the next day. So I asked, or I requested to reserve the day of the incident, the time and the day of that incident, and also the next day, the morning. So now the court, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, in the court, has to answer to why they denied the motion to reserve the tapes. They have to answer that. They also have to answer, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, of why would they put severe bodily injury if I neither struck the individual with my hands, right? I neither used a weapon against the individual. I didn't stab the individual, nor did I shoot the individual. So how can it be severe bodily injury, right? And if I didn't done any of those things, then it would show on the camera. They would have to have some kind of footage to prove that I did those things. So they have to answer those questions. They also have to answer, like I said, why was this individual stalking me days in and out at the store? Like, he would remain in the store. It was the store that came to me, the personnel in the store, that said, this guy comes to the store every day and he's waiting for you. He waits for you every day, and I believe he has a weapon. They came to me and said this. I believe he has a weapon. So I'm like, this guy just comes to the store, he doesn't buy anything, and he just waits around, and you don't tell him to leave? Well, this is what I was thinking. But these guys are so afraid of the people that come into that store that they don't even, they're so intimidated. They're so intimidated by the people that come in the store that harass this store that they didn't even want to tell him to leave. He wasn't buying anything. He was just waiting around. And they came and they knew he was waiting around for trouble because they warned me about him, right? But what did the courts do? The courts barred me from the store. The courts barred me from the store. The person with no criminal record, no criminal history, who had never been arrested in Massachusetts, right? The courts barred me from the store. But the one who's on parole, who's intimidating the people who work at the store to the degree that they don't even want to ask him to leave, right? They left him alone. And it goes back to that, the police officers, they have some kind of thing against the store employees of the 7-Eleven because they're foreigners, and that they make a lot of money because that store is always busy, and it's a high traffic place where a lot of people go to. So so they have some thing, the police, with them, because I never see the police around that area, and there's always problems in that store. What happened that night of the incident with me and the guy when we got into a fight, when he assaulted me and my family, happens every night. Like, not with me, but things of that nature happen every night. And so yeah, and those two questions